Guys, holy smokes, the impossible just happened. Tim Walz went viral because he said something interesting. I can't believe it either. All right, this is crazy. Tim Walz went viral because he's talking about young men and the Democratic Party, which is not just hilarious, but incredibly ironic because the left has time and again completely forgotten about men and virtually gave them no attention. All right, it's the endless conversation about toxic masculinity. It's the patriarchy. Everything is wrong with men. It's the demonization of men. It's the lack of appreciation at its core. And Tim Walz actually had to get schooled by his son, his literal son who's about to graduate high school very, very soon. All right. And apparently he knew something that the former vice presidential candidate did not know. All right. This is huge. Let's go ahead and get into this video and talk about some perspectives and why this matters. All right, check this out. Also, if you like having conversations like this, if you think they matter, or at the very least, you think they're interesting, please consider liking and subscribing. It really, really does mean the world. So check this out.
As of next Tuesday, I'm going to have a high school graduate with my son, Gus. And he's pretty in tune to this. But when he said this, he said, Dad, a lot of these young guys, especially, said they're not voting on the policy issues. And he wasn't dissing them. He said they may know the policy issues, but most of them don't. They're doing it because there's a sense of excitement, a sense of thrill in this. It's entertainment or whatever. We all dismiss that. Donald Trump's a clown. Donald Trump's rallies are a clown. This MMA fighting stuff and this, and look, you start veering in to the Andrew Tate stuff, which is dangerous misogyny and, assault issues and all of that. But there's a peripheral side of that is not criminal, but is still going down the same road of saying you got a place to belong. And I think this is me just pontificating for what it's worth. Social media and other things have disconnected people more than they were. We were more connected in my generation. It was easier to be a kid when I was growing up. And I've always said this as a teacher, if you don't give a kid a place to belong, they'll go find one. So why you want them to be involved in sports and music and things in school, because they will go find a group of folks. And I think Donald Trump understands belonging, understand groups. I mean, you look at it. He gives them a uniform, the red hat. He gives them some chants, some talking points, whatever. It's not that all that different than when we build sports teams in high school. You belong, you're part of this. It's not so much the policies. I think it's incredibly dangerous, but I don't think we went out to get them. We didn't out to make them feel a part of this.
All right. So I want to say two things very clearly. For one, he talks about how it's not the policies. All right. Pretty much saying that it is the messaging. All right. And I don't agree with that. The other thing is he's talking about this kind of this very philosophical view, which is they need a place, they need to belong. And I know from the church space, there's this really common saying, which is they need to belong before they could believe. It's almost like you need to have the correct ecosystem, you need to have the right environment, and I gotta agree with that 110%. But the audacity of this man to sit and talk about how it's not a policy issue completely negates so much of what the left has stood for time and again. All right, look at this. The old conservative alternative says the left has demonized men to such an extent and continues to do so through the lens of intersectional feminism, and that I honestly don't believe there's any way they can redeem themselves. The damage is done. The bed has been made, and now they must simply lay in it. One of the comments says, exactly. The left celebrates men literally becoming women. And let's not forget how the left also attempted to reach men in this election. Do you guys remember this viral ad that came out? This is insane. I almost can't believe this actually happened, but this is crazy. Look at this.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
Yeah, so this is how the left was reaching men in 2024. All right, through this ad, which is insane. This is crazy, right? Like, we can't forget it just how far, like, the left literally does not know how to speak to men. And that's why the New York Times recently reported that there is now a $20 million effort to reach men. Right, let me bring this up real quick. All right, check this out. Okay, this is crazy. The New York Times, the Democrats' $20 million man problem. All right, look at this. Let me find the right area. I believe it's right over here. Look at this. One of the proposals is a $20 million effort to reverse the erosion of Democratic support among young men, especially online. The goal is to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. Wow. Look at that. That is crazy. At its core, the manosphere is not about politics, certainly not party politics. Yes, it's always had a political aspects and implications, but its roots are cultural, and much of its growth was an organic response to a deep personal need. All right, so already you can see the mindset that the Democratic Party has. They are still thinking it is a messaging problem. They are still thinking that it's not about policy. And I'm reminded of this incredible poll, the Harvard Harris poll that we saw back in February. Look at this. Support and opposition for different policies. All right. This is Democratic support and GOP support. All right, look at this. Deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes. Look at that support. That's an 80-20 issue, regardless of where you stand, just about. That is crazy. Undertaking a full-scale effort to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. That is close to an 80-20 issue. Are you kidding me? The border, 80-20. And guys, I can't stress this enough. The Democrats who are screaming about this, saying, oh, it's just a messaging problem. We got to give them a place to belong. Like, no, brother, sometimes it is about policy. All right. Then, of course, your high school son is going to say, oh, dad, they don't know about they don't know about policies. It's about it's about the entertainment value of it. And it's like, of course, a high schooler is going to say that. What kind of high schooler is really that informed? Honestly, like they got other stuff to worry about. But the actual voting pool, I mean, this is what is actually driving the movement. And I've actually talked about this problem before. Sometimes the problem is messaging, but right now the Democratic Party is trying to mask a problem that's actually policy centered, but you're trying to mask it in terms of messaging. You're going to try to put a cherry on top of some garbage, and no one's going to want to eat that. All right. That's terrible. Imagine trying to bite into a cake that ends up being cardboard. Not a good cake. All right. It's not. Look at this. Breaking 911. And whenever they're talking about this, they said, they think you're stupid. Yeah. And they're responding on this whole, dad, they're not voting on policy. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Policy matters. Please. Please. Like, you got to know this. Voters aren't dumb. Come on. Benny Johnson, whenever he's talking about this, he said, Tim Walz says Trump voters supported him more for entertainment than for his policies. This guy is unbearable. Man, Democrats, they're going to keep losing if they keep thinking that the problem is messaging. And I promise you, whatever the problem, whatever the solution is, it's not going to cost you $20 million. Whoever's charging you $20 million, Democrats, you guys are getting robbed. All right. Those consultants, they got to go. They got to be fired. $20 million man problem. You get out of here. That is ridiculous. Come on. And look at this. Right underneath Benny Johnson's post is a comment that says, Tim, we voted for secure borders, reasonable living costs, and common sense returning. Thanks, though. Like, guys, come on. What are we doing here? Anyways, let me know what you think about this viral clip of Tim Walz. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And please, I gotta know what you guys think about the Democrats' $20 million man problem. All right. How much do you think? Like, what do you think? What do you think the solution is? And tell me if part of the solution is ads like this. All right. I bet this won a lot of men for the Democratic Party. All right. I don't know about you, but yeah, this is how a man sits on a truck, right, with a windmill spinning in the background. This is how it's done, right, guys? Right. All right. Let me know anything about all this in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time. And please make sure to like, subscribe. It really means the world to me. Episode's over already? Jeez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.